All right, here we go. I think we're live now. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Dan. This is Neo Mustang. It's my Foxbody Mustang channel. We do a live stream every Sunday, pretty much every Sunday. Today's subject is the rabbit hole. So stick around, stick around. We're going to talk about a lot tonight using the example of this car as our base for the subject. What's up, KP? What's up, Barbecue Mike? Treetop Tom, it's good to see you, man. I ain't seen you in a while. First and foremost, this is a Foxbody Mustang channel. Big shout to the folks in green. They are my channel members. So thank you so much once again every month for subscribing and being part of the membership here on the channel. It helps to do things like Fox Days of Christmas and do random giveaways and to give back to the channel, along with going to the events that we go to every year. So guys, the subject of the night is the rabbit hole. You see the thumbnail. There's no BS in that. We've all, at some point in our Foxbody build, or car build for that matter, it doesn't even have to just be a Foxbody, have gotten to the point to where, got super excited about a build that's coming up, like super excited about a car that you just bought, and legitimately just start throwing money at it. So if you see the rabbit there in my thumbnail, he's just throwing money at the rabbit hole like it grows on trees. So that's the subject of the evening. If you've been following the channel, you guys know that when we talked about the last video, I think we could actually bring it here up on channel. Maybe not. Yeah, we talked about in our last video about some of the top 5 mods. And like I said, we're going to be talking about the SSP coupe behind me. I think I'm pointing at it there, the camera. And you guys see we got Dad's car in the shop. We got some plans for it coming up, as we're going to talk about that as well today. So big shout out to you guys here in the channel. Thanks for joining me. Got about 50 in chat here. SN95 Garage, what's up? Quarter horse will help. Neil, if you get this quarter horse, will help me tune it if I live close to Newark, Ohio. So, Neo, if I get this quarter horse, so this is Treetop Tom. Is this the gentleman that I talked to in the phone the other day? Quarter horse is. Let's talk about tuning real quick. He asked the question about his Foxbody. Neo, if I get this quarter horse, will you help me tune it? I live close. Okay, so the problem with Moats and the quarter horse was a supply chain issue. You can still tune on a different chip. It does like an SCT 4-bank eliminator or what have you. That you can still go to dyno shops and do that. That still do that. I mean, that's kind of being, the quarter horse is going out of business. Just means that supply chain has ceased to exist. Is that, you know what I mean? So that's just the hardware that tunes the, using binary editor files and stuff like that. There's other options like I had just spoke of, where you can, download and burn to a chip, and it'd be the same thing. So I hope that helps. What's up, Sean Fisher? Good to see you. GT40P head spring upgrade. With spring upgrade. Okay, so that'd be one of your top 5 mods. Hannah, what up, man? Big shout out to Hannah Motorsports, #1 sponsor here on the channel. Like I said, we're going to be mashing it up tonight with talking about my mods that I have ordered for my coupe, and how we literally just jumped right into the rabbit hole. So, gotcha. I have a question on, would you help me? Yeah, we could try to answer best we can if I got time. Just hit me up on the email. Probably be the best chance. Charles, ain't nothing wrong with running. You must run a carburetor. Ain't nothing wrong with that. We got a build on the channel that's coming that's going to be carbureted. I mean, it's not my car, but it is what it is. Retort. When you did your stock bottom end, let me go ahead and retort. What do you say? Retort. When you did your stock bottom end rebuild, did you replace the rod bolts? Nope. There's really no reason for it. You'll break the block before you have to worry about, rod bolts You'll, you know, usually, the stock bottom end in both the stock bottom end of 302 really kind of gets its bad rap from the fact that everyone thinks that the block split. And for the most part, it does, but it's kind of a chain of events that happen. And this is one of the biggest things, and I'll answer his question, and then we'll move on. But it's kind of a chain of events that actually happen. Most likely what was happening before the block split was the balance was incorrect, meaning that the balancer was probably not keeping up. We spin these motors sometimes with stock balancers is probably not the best idea. And, when harmonics will kill a motor, I mean, consider the fact that, a stock bottom end 302 is a 50 ounce external weight. So it's 50 ounce in the flywheel, 50 ounce in the front with the balancer, that's like 3 pounds. So imagine having to accurately stay balanced with 3 pounds on each end of your crankshaft. On top of the fact you're putting load on it. What I've learned from the stock bottom end rebuilds and stock bottom end splitting the blocks and stuff is that the actual crank gives up at around the second rod bearing journal. Usually in all 3 of the blocks that we have split over the years, 2 of them were on my fault. They've actually, the main cap threading that comes through the block usually starts cracking right about, because there's so much load on that counterbalance is kind of at a disadvantage. So, you're going to split the block because you bent the crank. Does that make sense? Does the girdle help that? Not really. It helps kind of, make the tension go between all the caps, but the caps on a 302 are small compared to a 351. Talking plans in the SSP, that's correct. I'm about to ditch the micro squirt and go with a Holly. Have nothing but issues with it. Yeah, micro squirt's tough to get the specifically the drivability, as you would call it, or getting the idle set right. Will the Rabbit Hole Fox be also autocross? So this is not going to be called the Rabbit Hole Fox, but I'm just going to talk about this car as it kind of like is a rabbit hole. So what we do, and one of the issues that we have, specifically here in our genre, is we'll get a build and we'll get super excited about the car, and then we'll come home and just start ordering parts. But one of the biggest problems with the rabbit hole is a time frame, a realistic one for that matter, because there's a lot of major factors involved with Foxbody building or just car building in general that we often overlook. That's why they come up with the phrase, you should probably sleep on it. You know what I mean? You should probably sleep on that idea. Well, some deals you just go get, and then you sleep on it and deal with it later. Like, we got a really good deal with the SSPs. You guys already seen in the videos. It came with a whole truckload of parts. And, obviously a lot of those parts are good aftermarket parts that pretty much were brand new for the most part. So we're going to utilize some of that. And what we're going to actually do with the rabbit hole here, or, with the Foxbody that we're building here, is we're going to take some of the stuff that we know we can make some money on, and we'll probably we're just going to dump it back into it because it needs money to make it right. You know what I mean? It needs that extra money to get all the chassis stuff done and get all the cage stuff done. Now, is a cage a necessity? No. Is chopping the front of it off? No. But for me to make the car right, we're going to take this car to a whole nother level. It's actually going to be the channel car for this year because I've been wanting to build a coupe. I keep talking about that. I've been wanting to build a coupe for a long time. And I love my GTs. I'm going to always be a GT. Nothing changes between my other cars. It's just we're going to start really kind of jumping into what we can do with a notchback. You see what I mean? So I think it'll be pretty cool. What's up, Jimmy Willie? What's up, Fat Boy Fox? Good to see you. Lamar, what's up? What's up, Lamar Richardson? Just looking at what that engine stand like. So if you guys didn't know, I think I'm pointing at it here, is Lamar Richardson actually bought the motor that was in this car and the accessories and stuff that were on it. So he was super excited to get it. It's a good build. I mean, it's definitely somebody built the short block or they ordered it. And I don't know what camshaft is in it, but obviously it's not going to be stock. But the motor did have it was starting to get put together, but never was finished. For the most part, it was fired, but there was a couple issues with the install, so it didn't affect any of the motor or whatever. But It's a great motor, man. It's a good price. I actually trying to get rid of the Z-Spec that came in it too. It came with like a brand new Z-Spec. Literally, I mean, there's no way that had any miles on it. It had no in-play. It was brand new, bright red fluid, and there's just no way. It was one of the motorsports ones that you own. So I'm gonna need about half those parts for my new car. So yeah, so what we're going to probably end up doing instead of tuning on a factory harness is we're going to actually start tuning on the Terminator X. So it's going to be really kind of cool. You know, what we often thought about doing was, you know, using the Terminator X and maybe doing a plug and play with one of the factory harnesses in one of my other cars. But I consider them like kind of already tuned. I don't really want to mess with them too much, let alone start something different. So I think that'll be some good content for the car. Literally, when I got the SSP car on the way home, like I already knew what I had planned on doing. I literally have a sheet that I and I'm not here just to talk about it. It's just, this is what happens. You know, when you jump in the rabbit hole and get all excited about building a car, is you just start spending money. And legitimately, I just went to TeamZ's site and just started picking out things that I'm going to need for this car, because when I say accelerated engine, or excuse me, an accelerated build, minus the paint cosmetically, I want the car ready to be able to drop a driveline in by summer and making some hits by fall. So, you know, I mean, I'd love to get it painted, but we'd have to get it, you know, we got to get it kind of built first. You know what I mean? We can always come back and paint. I'll be driving up soon to pick it up. All right. What's up, Neo? Just got back from Summit and I'm ready for get some motivation. So again, you know, when you start getting into the rabbit hole stuff, guys, the number one thing you got to really consider is time frame. Like, it will overwhelm you. And after you know, after I made this purchase, you know, obviously I wasn't gonna, you know, I would have bought the roller as a roller too. It wouldn't have mattered. You know, you start getting, you know, excited about, and then you just, your pocket starts getting more empty. You know, I went right down, you know, my top 5 mods, and as I talked about it in my last video, you know, it depends on what you want to do when you want to build a car. But to be honest with you, you know, we're going to probably pull out the whiteboard, and some of these mods are going to actually, we talk about these on the channel often, but, you know, obviously we get new members in every week. So I do want to talk like some of the top 5 mods for the Foxbody Mustang, even the ones that are just kind of what should happen anyway. You see what I mean? So you're not going to race the car. Obviously, you're not going to really want to deal with, you know, caging it, right? So that kind of goes without saying. So we're going to talk tonight about the rabbit hole and some of the mods that we're going to be doing. Like I said that we did in the video last Friday. One more time before I actually. Congratulations to the winners of Fox Days of Christmas. I got about half of that stuff out last week. I was super busy, and just kind of. I probably got about half of them out. The merch stuff I haven't sent yet. And like the smaller stuff, I did most of the big UPS stuff first because that's what we were doing all week. What's up, MF Customs? It's good to see you, man. Haven't seen you in a while. Well, I think you were on my last live stream. What's up, Fox Addiction? Get my Sepston 89. What do you say? Cousin Fred in the house. What up? So, anyways, what are the rabbit hole things? Like when you just start spending money on a project car, you know, you already kind of got an idea in your head. You're like, well, what do I want to, what do I want to achieve with the car? When you're going to actually build a Foxbody, you got to actually get into the point of, where are you going to go with the car and what is your plans? And what I always like to do with my car builds, and I've done so many of them, is I always like to do like a 6 month, a 1 year, 2 year, whatever. I like to do a little plan in my head of where I want to be with the car. Being that I know, kind of already been in this hole a couple of times and dug my way out, sort of, kind of have an idea of where we want to go with this car. So one of the #1 mods, and we talk about mods on the channel all the time, it's going to really help not only my coupe back here, but and we're going to go more than just top 5. But one of the probably the #1 thing you can do to it probably would definitely be, we're talking about, you can't see that here. We're talking about things that would help the Mustang. Oh boy. Now we're gonna, it's terrible. All right, Lamar. We're gonna cover your engine up. I don't know. Maybe I should have done it in red here. Subframe connectors. A lot of PayPal credit. So we chose, I think one of the #1 things you can do to that car is subframe connectors. And we actually ordered the Maximum Motorsports one. And the reason why we chose the Maximum Motorsports one is because they got a full length one that goes from the torque box. I'm going to show you this. If you watch the video, you guys know what I'm talking about. I ordered this thing. We've had this thing sitting on the shelf for probably 20 years. And you can tell by the dust on it that, it's pretty tore up in the box wise. But the thing of the matter is that the plates, the torque boxes, these are torque box plates. These are good to go. All right, so subframe connectors. These are kind of one of the things that I like to start putting on with the other item we're about to talk about. But like the first thing you'd probably want to do if you're trying to actually build, like I said, my purpose for this car is to street drive it, but also to race it a lot. So it's going to be a little bit different than my black car, but set up somewhat the same. Because whatever I've done to this car, I've already done to my white and black car anyways. But we chose to go with the Maximum Motorsports subframe connectors because we've messed with the core, the equal lengths and the shorty ones, for years. And one thing I was super impressed of with the Maximum Motorsports one is it went from the torque box all the way up. I mean, all the way up to where the firewall kind of curves. And what that does for you is it really helps your car, stiffen the chassis. These things literally, I'm not even going to lie to you. These things are pop cans. There's so many spot welds in this car. There's no frame. It's just a unibody. And putting really good subframes in the car really, stiffens the car up to where it doesn't tweak as much, doesn't roll as much. I mean, there's a lot of things in play when you talk about roll, but it's definitely, it makes a difference. So I'm going over some of these rabbit hole mods with you because they relate to every Foxbody. And I've done the cheaper ones on my white car and like the little $75 ones, and I kind of regret it. that I didn't put a good, thick, solid, subframe connector underneath of the car. My white car's actually got some cheap, knockoff stuff that I got from like eBay or some racing. It was one of the first mods I put on that car years ago. And it just, once you weld that stuff in, it's kind of permanent at that point, but we'll end up cutting it out. But subframe connector is probably one of the first ones when you're trying to build a car in general. It doesn't have to be a race car. It doesn't have to be even a show car. It's just the stability of the car, because the car is just so old at that point. You know what I mean? Those spot welds. I'd say number one would be torque box reinforcements. That's kind of where we're at next. So talking back to this, if you look underneath of your car, there's a plate there. This is actually where the front of the lower control arm comes in at. You know what I mean? This area is such a small gauge, like a metal, and it's just like a pop can metal. It's just small. It's like 16, 18 gauge. It's thin. And they make these plates, and I really wish these reinforcement plates, I really wish I would have put these on my white and black car a long time ago, my turbo cars, and they're going to get this reinforcement. But your subframe usually, your subframe connector usually actually welds to that part. So I would actually have to cut the subframe just to get that thing to fit. So this is probably one of the better things that you could do first, especially if you're doing torque box reinforcements. So again, this subframe connectors, regardless of what you're doing, whether you're going to race a car like we're going to do with the coupe, or whether you're just going to street drive the car like we do with my dad's car for the most part, torque box reinforcements, and I talk about these mods all the time on the channel, and I like to talk about them live more than I do actually in videos, which I know would get plenty of views, but it kind of gives a description to it. I can actually, tell you what we're doing and why. Torque box reinforcements and the plates are definitely a big deal, especially now. These cars are just legitimately, they're just been torn up for 35 years. I mean, they're old. I mean, consider the fact these Foxbodies are like 35 years old now, fellas. So anything we can do to make them last longer, you know what I mean, is definitely worth its weight in gold, because these cars aren't, going down in value. If anything, they'll stabilize where they're at. Can you guys see that? Or is it just bright, too bright? What's up, Mike? Yeah, we got a pretty good coupe there, man. It looks like trash right now, but that's only on the top. It's only on the surface. I was happy the UPR torque box reinforcements on mine. So as far as like the brands are concerned, torque box reinforcements are just torque box reinforcements. There's a lot of good brands out there. You don't have to overthink running the cheaper subframes too isn't a big deal either. Don't let me, steer you off the path. I have the cheaper subframes in my white car. They've worked just fine for years. These subframe connectors of the Maximum Motorsports, I haven't even tried them yet, but I know I'm going to be super happy with them because I've seen them in one of the other cars we're going to introduce to the channel this year. And I'm definitely interested in having those underneath all my cars for that matter. Try to go back here, guys. I'm trying to get into some of the chat. You can ruin a set of torque boxes on the street configuration. You're absolutely right, Clay. Absolutely right. This is almost like these two things right here. Like if you bought a Foxbody, fellas, or folks, these should be on your radar first and foremost. Now, on top of the torque box reinforcement and plates, I would definitely suggest doing the plates. This should actually be number one, and that should actually be number two. So now let me go ahead and reshuffle there. So there's an area in the back of the torque box reinforcements, in the torque boxes themselves, and part of this actual reinforcement plates actually take that stress away there. But right on the back side of the torque box where it meets the floor pan, right next to your rear seat bolt mount hole screw, whatever you want to call it, there's only like 3 or 4 spot welds there. I mean, they need to be hammered flat to the floor. They need to be, you know, ground down with like a little grinder or whatever, and you need to put a couple tack welds there because that's essentially a weak spot in the back of the torque box. So with torque box reinforcement and plates and welding the back side of the torque boxes, you know, your torque boxes should be fine. At least your lower one should be fine for, you know, whatever horsepower. I mean, at some point, you know, you make thousands of horsepower, then your car changes. Every time you make more horsepower, your car changes and something needs to be done. But under 1,000 horsepower, that would be just fine. He said cup holders. I'll take the trash. No, my when I say my coupe looks like trash, it means it's because it looks like it's rattle can sprayed, and you know it's going to look like that all year long for the most part. But what makes me, you know, fall in love with the build is the fact that it's like structurally strong, and it's an SSP and it's a coupe, so kind of check marked everything on my build want to do list. As old as Fox bodies are, you will need a hammer to get those plates to flat. That's correct. So putting those plates in, I just showed you guys, you definitely will have to do some hammer massaging underneath your torque box areas, but you can really spruce those things up to really take some good horsepower, you know, some good burnouts or good beating there for. So the third one, and this was probably one that you need to do anyways, but I'm going to put it in, you know, your upper and lower control arm. Let's just call it upper. Let's just put control arms. You guys know what I'm talking about. Now, I'll tell you right now, the stock control arms beat. Even ones, let's go rear control arms. And we're talking a lot about suspension because that's what we're doing here in the coupe. You know, when I ordered my control arms, I ordered the 8.8 one too, the upper bushing. Now, if you got a car that's kind of swaying a lot, this stuff right here is one of your problems. Control arms, especially the factory ones, I guarantee you, even cars that have like 10,000 miles on them have poly, or not poly, but have, you know, bushings. The rubber bushings are dry rotted and old at this point. You see what I'm talking about? So there's also a bushing that's actually hard mounted to the ears of your 8.8 axle. And those bushings I usually replace with sphericals anyways. But what I'm actually doing with the coupe is I'm ordering the Team Z upper lower control arm set that have spherical ends and adjustables and whatever after we do the torque box reinforcement plates. Now, Team Z also has a relocation for the uppers. We're not going to go that far with it. I don't think we really need it, but you know, that may change one day. But control arms being, if your car makes 300 horsepower or 1,000 horsepower, you know, just having a good set of new control arms to tighten up your suspension in the back, really important. But like I said, there's an upper bushing that's not actually on the control arms. It's what the upper control arm bolts to the axle with. You want to change that, and you have to kind of hammer that out, and you know, you can press it out or whatever, but legitimately all we did with the big socket was, you know, we would heat it up, hammer it out of the 8.8 ear, and you can buy this bushing at like Advanced Auto Parts for like 20 bucks. It's cheap. Sorry if I missed some people here in the comments. Let me go back through here, and then we'll keep right on rolling. Caught another live. What's up, Exhausted Fox? Sean Ray Motorsports, what's up? First best mod, I think, is a full exhaust and long tube. So George damaged his on his jack stands. Yeah, we'll talk about some of those other mods, Sean Ray. Before I caged, I stripped the seams, stitched the welded. What do you say? I stripped the seams and stitched the welded every inch. Yep. What's up, Cleveland Fox? Good to see you. Sorry if I don't answer you guys. I'm really trying to. But yeah, so let's just go ahead. Now, I'm not going to actually renumber, but we're just going to go ahead and reshuffle and go with torque box reinforcements, followed by subframe connectors, followed by probably need to look at your control arms and your axle. You don't really need, when you start messing with your control arms and axles, if you wanted to keep your quad shock at this point, you could flip it. By flipping it, it'll allow you to run a bigger tire in the back, because that might be something that you're going to be doing eventually anyways, right? So these are definitely mods. I mean, I would legitimately think now, as a content creator and an influencer in the community, I'm not here to try to tell you to go out and buy all this stuff right now. But this is rabbit hole stuff that, like, when you get a new build in, you know, when you want to make power and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that to the car. These are legitimately some of the things you should think about doing first, especially if you plan on keeping the car a long time. This will definitely, you know, these areas also will reveal any issues if the car has been beat up quite a bit. I've had cars that I brought home, Foxbody specific, that, you know, the torque box was laying on the ground, just from bad burnouts or whatever. It is what it is. Jesse Workman, so have you given any more thought about donating some of that? No. Whatever we did with the coupe stuff is going to go right back into that coupe. It's going to be dope. It's going to be like awesome. You guys are going to like it. What about transmission choice? Okay, so my next mod for my car, and these guys should consider this yourself. If you're not looking to make a bunch of horsepower, if you're looking to have a good, clean Foxbody that's lighter, something, you know, and try to eliminate a lot of issues that are going on with the car right now at 35 years old, if it's untouched, you know, I would definitely consider running tubular front suspension, tubular K-member. We're talking, you know, the tubular K-member, the tubular K control arms, running a coil over set in the front. Coil over sets are super easy to set up. They're exactly the same way as a stock one, you know, in pretty much getting rid of all that old suspension stuff. Not only is the old K-member stuff heavy, but those bushings, pretty much every one. And let me tell you guys, we take a lot of this stuff apart, put it back together. Almost every one of the control arms, I mean, I think I probably got some laying around here somewhere. Almost every one of those control arms, which you can't even see, that bushing is tore up from the floor up. And you know, that stuff, you know, it affects handling, along with that stupid rag joint. Get rid of that rag joint. You know, when you're steering, you know, you're talking about a car that does this, you know, versus being able to just roll and go straight. You understand? So one of the things that we're doing on the coupe, okay, is we're going to put a tubular K-member in the front, which allows you to run, you know, bigger headers, control, you know, lot of pluses to that. Less weight, it's stronger. You could run, you know, like I said, bigger headers, turbo kits. You could run stuff that's, you know, not going to be so bulky and heavy. So tubular K-member, definitely something to think about when you're jumping in the rabbit hole. And we're talking about mods that really don't have a whole lot to do with power at this point, because we'll talk about that in another live stream maybe next week. But definitely tubular K-member, and we're going to put arms with coil over. Definitely a great mod. Now, a coil over can be optional, because that's something that you could actually revisit. So what we did with the white car is we actually had a QA1 tubular K-member and control arms. I take that back. We had the stock arms with a tubular K-member, and we had the perch on the K-member to where we could still run the stock springs with the stock control arms. And that's when I really kind of went to control our coilovers right after that, because my GT spring didn't fit worth a damn, and it was like all crooked in there. So we went back to coilovers, and we, you know, it was just so much better for the handling. The only thing I didn't like about the coilovers was the fact that every time I went over a railroad tracks, I mean, it was, you know, you could hear it. But I mean, it did handle very well. even at 150 plus. So let me go back to here. These are the upgrades to put horsepower to the ground. You are 100% correct. And that's kind of why I'm going over this. Like I said, we did a couple of videos last week with the coupe. You know, some of the stuff that we found, you know, the shell, our plans. Not everybody watches the whole video. So I wanted to talk about it on live stream. We're probably going to do a video about this week. You know, I don't expect it to go viral or anything, but, you know, we're going to talk about everything that we do to this coupe, and we're going to document that here on the channel this year, because we're not going to take 2 years to build this car. I mean, we're going to build it right, but we're going to build it in an accelerated period of time, because I'm excited to get in it and start making some hits in it. So not just that, but just driving it to the car show. So one of the best rear control arm mod I've ever bolted in was the 5/8 Roads race. Okay. There's a number, like the control arm that we're going to actually go in, or excuse me, the Tubular K member that we're actually going to go with, we're just going to go with Team Z. They got a chrome moly one. For those that are just, you know, kind of getting into the Foxbody community or the Foxbody building, you know, car building itself, chrome moly weighs less than mild steel and is stronger. There's a Dokal R8 as well. That's, you know, pretty strong metal as well. It's just something to think about when you start getting into, when you start talking about chrome moly stuff, when they give you, when you call somebody like a fabricator and say, hey, I want to get a cage put in, you know, I bought it from Summit Racing for $250. Can you weld it in? You know, the first thing the guy's going to probably say is, number one, you know, is it mild steel or chrome moly? Obviously, you're not going to get chrome moly for $250. Chrome moly is expensive steel. So, but it's lighter and it's stronger. So, and it usually should need to be tigged in. So that's something that, you know, you could think about when you're, you know, getting ready to put a cage in, or you can buy a chrome moly Tubular K member. Just something to think about. That sucks. Can you try to wash your well? Okay, so my first mod will be subframe connectors, then torque box reinforcements. So, like I was just talking about, Jesse Workman, put these plates in. They're not expensive. I don't think they're. I mean, you can look them up, but there's the part number. What is that? C8015. You know, you weld up the back of your torque box reinforcements or your torque boxes themselves. Get that metal flat that goes in, and just weld that thing in, and it'll help keep that thing strong. And then you put your subframes in. Some Mustang guys say they go single coil over and dual shock in the rear. What do you mean? You talking about the struts versus shocks? I got the Team Z K member that LMR made video of with off that black coupe. It's pretty clean. Nice. For the Tubular K member, which arms would you prefer? What material? Never mind. Couldn't type fast. Yeah. So, like, I'm going to run with this stuff. Like, Team Z isn't a sponsor on the channel. I would love to have them as a sponsor on the channel, but I literally went through their list, because I know Team Z has some really baller shit. So I went through their list and just started making like part numbers of stuff. And this is the rabbit hole that I jumped in last week, and I started putting it in the cart, and it got pretty expensive. And I just kind of laughed at myself and said, you know, I talk about this on my channel all the time. And it's just like, you know, maybe I should just sleep on it before I start making decisions to buy all this shit. So I figured I would talk about it today. Through the floor Detroit speed subframe connectors are a great foundation to tie the roll bar in. Yeah, so that's definitely an option when you start talking about subframe connectors. Now, I talk about Maximum Motorsports because I want to keep it under the car. But you can buy from Team Z as well. They have a really nice through the floor subframe connector set, which basically takes it off the bottom of the car. I'm not real picky where the subframe connectors are. I'm just real picky on how well they're made, and really kind of like the length of them. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but most subframe connectors, they only go, they're like equal lengths or whatever. They only go up to like where the cross member's at. And I want a subframe connector that goes all the way to the front. You see what I mean? Battle boxes, 2 on the bottom, the kicker bars each. If you're rebuilding a motor right now, took it off, not sure if I'll put it back on. What is it? I'm rebuilding the motor right now, took it off, not sure if I put it back on. What's up, Dylan? It's good to see you, buddy. So number 5. Now this is something. Let me think about this one. I'm gonna think about which one I want to say. Now my top 5 mods right now. I guess the 5th one's going to be. I would say brace your axle, but we're not going to talk about getting into that. We're going to talk about a cage. Okay. Now this mod here really isn't for everybody. Now I understand that the cage, like, it's kind of a pain in the ass to jump over the side of the cage. You can make cages that have a door swing bar. Now consider if you've done most, if not all, these mods, especially the ones, the torque box subframes, and I would probably consider a cage if you're racing the car. Now, I'm not, when I say racing the car, I'm not talking about competitively. I'm not talking about going out there and busting out 10-second, 9-second, 8-second passes every other weekend, with just a driver's seat in it. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because I do the same thing. But I'm talking about cages for safety. So if you start making some good power, which you're going to need these reinforcements and these reinforcements and all the stuff above, consider a cage. And like I said, a good fabricator, you could get a custom cage put in where they'll actually TIG the whole thing in and certify it, or they won't, but you can take it and get it certified. But they also have ones that you have removable bars. So not uncommon. If I was to actually cut the bar in my white car, the side arm bars, there's so much tension on the cage where my car is actually relaxed to the frame and relaxed to the roll bar and cage, that if I was to cut the sidebar door bar, the whole thing would go tink. It would the tension would move the bar around. You know what I mean? And you would it would be a pain in the ass to get it to go back straight. So consider the fact that that's how much tension and that's how much strength the cage could put in. I get the whole fact, well, I got a back seat and I drive this person around, I drive that person around. Honestly, guys, if you're not putting anybody in the back seat, the rear seat delete looks really good too. But a good roll bar cage would do your car wonders, especially if you're putting some good horsepower down and you're trying to be a little more safe with it. Because the more horsepower you put in it, the more dangerous it's going to be. But like I said, that's not something I'm trying to convince anybody to do. That's something that I did in all my cars just for the safety, factor or whatever. In case the car flips upside down or goes into a ditch or something, at least I know that if it rolls over, that my roof's not going to come down on my head. So. Send that to, you'll get it really tight. Yeah, we're going to get it pretty tight here, brother. What else we got here? So what do you guys think? You tell me. If you had a coupe, if you were in the same scenario, and this is where I'm at, okay? So if you were in the same scenario, okay, what would be your top 5 mods for, say you brought that car home? What would you have done? What's your frame of mind? Sorry, I was told that going coilovers and eliminating the quadrillink rear suspension setup was better overall handling. Anything's better. Listen, anything's better than the stock suspension at this point. I'm telling you, even cars that have 10,000 miles on them. One of the problems is the bushings start to go bad. They just start to just dry rot, regardless of what climate it's in. You know what I mean? It's just, changing these items and, talking, I'm talking towards KP here, changing the front suspension, the K-member and the coilover stuff. These are all just sub mods that just make the car better all the way around. So power adders, cam heads, long tubes. So you guys would not do any of this stuff, or you would just go straight into power. Intake, injectors, map. That's like 7 right there, Clay. subframes, suspension, cage, 8.8 rebuild, bracing, 351. Ooh, 351. I like that. So he would put the subframes in to tighten the car up. Suspension, he's probably addressing the bushings, the control arms, I would imagine. Cage, well, there you go. Cage, would it be a roll bar or would it be a cage? Because a roll bar is only 6 point, 8 point. A cage is a 10 point. Rebuild and bracing, okay. Tater says gears and connectors. Gears, definitely. I'm going to put that here on the board. We're going to put that in red. Hey, you put like 7 of those. No, dude, I appreciate it. I appreciate the interaction, man. We're going to go right here. We're going to go like next to it. We'll go 1. Follow the whiteboard, then add whatever power. There you go. See, you guys got it right there, boys. See it? Follow the whiteboard, then whatever power you want, make it happen. If you got the money, do these things first. That is, you're going to see it. We're going to do very first mod that we're doing to our coupe, among many. We're going to do our torque box reinforcements in those plates, just like I said. And that's why I'm bringing it up right now on the live stream. You're going to see me start making some really lame, boring videos that only get 1,000 views, because I'm going to show you guys about where I'm doing with my torque boxes. And then the very next thing we're going to do is we're going to probably go right inside and start the cage, even though torque boxes, we're going to go to subframes. Then we're going to go to cage. It's going to go 1, 2, and 3. I'm not messing with tubular control arms yet until I actually rebuild and brace the axle, which is something that I didn't really talk about because it's kind of irrelevant here, because a lot of people don't brace the axle like they probably should and weld the tubes. But that's kind of like a horsepower thing. When you start making a lot of horsepower, you want to do something with your axle too. Your drive shaft, your pinion flange bolts, or excuse me, your pinion flange, etc. So, KP says suspension, power adder, subframe, engine rebuild, 363. Hanlon says gut it completely, new torque box kit, Team Z, cage through the floor, full suspension after you ponder which motor. So what I haven't said is, when I probably said it earlier in the live stream, a lot of the stuff we're talking about depends on your 6 month, 1 year goals with the car. Like, don't take in mind that you got to go to work, you got a family to take care of most likely, or friends to hang out with, or whatever. There's a thing called life, and there's going to be unsuspecting bills that we got to deal with. So money's going to be an issue. So in the best case scenario, you have enough money to build whatever you want. But in the worst case scenario, that's not usually how it happens. So you almost have to pick and choose what's important and where you're headed at with your build. Regardless if it's a Foxbody, I mean, I don't care. This is just building in general. You see what I mean? But you got to come up with you got to be motivated to do it and stick to a plan. Best thing to do is to figure out what you want to do and then make it happen, one thing at a time. Figure out what you want to do with the car. I just talked about that. I scrolled up and Fat Boy Fox hit it right on the number. Figure out what you want to do with the car and then make a plan. Let me tell you one thing about that, though. Plans always change. Always. We took Dad's car. We were like what? We were running like what? 1330s, 1340s, bone stock motor, right? We were going fast. We don't have a cage in that car. We got we don't have torque box reinforcements. We just put no, we do have torque box reinforcements. Cousin Paul, I don't remember. I don't think we did. But that's something, we kind of went out of rhythm with this car because we weren't really focusing on it. But then things changed. Then I built a turbo kit with half Amazon stuff and stuff that I chopped up and welded together, and it worked. And then we ended up running like 11s with it, or like 1160s on like 7 pounds of boost on a computer that was never tuned. Crazy. It just depends on what you want to do, but plan to always be ready to change. Good call, Fat Boy Fox. What's up, Sublime? It's good to see you. Cup holder. Cup holder, cheap, improves driving experience. Yes, yes. I agree with that. What all is needed for a 5-lug swap for your front end? Honestly, there's a couple things you can do with your what was I going to put at number one? I got off track. There's a couple things you can do. You can cheat a rotor in the front. I think SVO rotors work, maybe. You do a little bit of Googling. You can figure out which one it is. I forget what it was. I brought SVO ones back here for Dad's car. It didn't work. With the current part shortages, I guess I buy whatever's in stock. I'm not having much luck buying parts to build a spare stroker block. I hear that. What's up, John Elliott? I made my entire list for my 81 387 build from suspension to engine, and I've edited it about 70 times. See? That's what I'm talking about, boys. Prepare for change. Plan and prepare for change. That is 100% probably the best thing you can take from this. Can you see that? Oh, got it. Fox Addiction, your little stand here is not working very well for me. I'm just kidding, bro. I just want a big shout out to Fox Addiction. He actually sent me this thing for the channel. Because I kept putting this thing on slicks, if you remember. I'm kind of feeling at it now. I have it set right. Damn. You still can't see it. Is it that bright right here? I'm in Los Angeles, can't do lowering springs. You can't? Lowering springs is probably a good idea with when you start talking about, your control arms. But to be honest with you guys, the rear control arms, some of the best springs you can do is just cut your own, your factory ones. Lights are shining right on it. I can't really see it. That's terrible. Kind of picked the wrong location for it, I guess. Like anywhere we put it, it's going to have that light shining on it. Let me see if I think there's this little. Well, that strap is for that. Let me see. There's like this whole thing here too. Little notch thing. I think about as far as it goes right there. Fail. Fail. How do we make this work? I'm waiting for a 5-lug 31 spline. So I don't have a list. Back in the 90s, best drag springs were the 4-banger fronts. I remember that. No clue about the plates. Thank you. No clue about the plates. What do you mean you didn't understand? You didn't know what it was? So number one mod outside of this depends on what engine you're going to run, but this is a pretty generic model of stuff that you should probably do to your car. I mean, even if you don't cage it, which is fine, that really needs attention on these cars. Like I said, these control arms, these front control arms have just been destroyed. And it's in the rear too. The rear control arms, the bushings, they're just dry rotted. It's just, if you ever see your Foxbody swaying a lot, I mean, you could legitimately buy new bushings and put them in your control arms, your factory ones, if you really wanted to go that far. or just start investing in the actual body of the car. One of the biggest issues we have with Fox bodies in general is we just want to go out there and make power and have a bunch of fun with it. But we kind of often overlook some of the supporting things that are going to make that more efficient. You see what I mean? So those are definitely the things that I would talk about. Black marker might help. Yeah, I was trying to get all colorful and shit, but it is what it is. Now I know I kind of figured this light was going to be crappy for like shining on it. I could duct tape it, like duct tape it and like have it so it then have something propped up in the back. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to duct tape it, and then we're going to, hell yeah. Then we're going to prop it up on a tubular intake. This thing's going to come down and hit me. Hell yeah. Here we go. Be part of a solution, not a problem, right? This is the engineer in me right here. Duct tape. When all else fails, well, actually, it's just masking tape. So we're going to take our tubular intake here. Right here. We'll take our tubular intake. We're going to use it for a prop. This is funny. $1,000 intake. Got to use it for something, right? This is funny. This is going to fall down and hit me. All right. This is getting ridiculous. Sit there. This is terrible, dude. This is borderline embarrassing. Sorry, guys. Give me a second here. There's a little clip that won't stay there. Is that better? I don't know. All right, let's see if maybe if we hazard pay. That's right. Maybe I can get it to come forward a little bit more. Whatever. This is ridiculous. This fiasco is whatever. So that's definitely, you know, some of the stuff on this whiteboard that you guys see that now. Much gooder. If it falls, it falls. So it's definitely what the situation was that we were talking about with the coupe. You know, I just went through these. You know, I literally made a cart on Team Z and Maximum Motorsports and Summit Racing, and just started making lists of car parts that I needed for my coupe. And I felt it was a good topic for this evening. We're in at about an hour. A couple things I want to talk about outside of that. Yeah, black market probably would have been a lot better. I'm sure. Of course. Well, it's so restrictive, it will, what did he say? Nah, I never mounted. I know what I have. That's right. Sorry, but I was like $10 from, you know, hey, man, I appreciate you, Fox Addiction. Big shout to Fox Edition 216. He's the one who bought me the stand. Definitely appreciate it, man. Don't worry about it. Technical difficulty. All right, so let's go through real quick top 5 mods. If you didn't have the stuff that you wanted to do, the engine, or do, you know, some of the like transmission, clutch. I got it on my face. But what's the top 5 mods you guys would do? You just brought home a roller coupe. Let's just say it's got a, say it's bone stock, needs work. What's the number one thing you do? What's up, Daniel Robinson? It's good to see you, buddy. We started talking about this earlier, got distracted by the board of doom over here. So we'll start talking, like I said, about the engine, transmission, axle. What's the first thing you do? I'll tell you the first thing I'm going to do. It's exactly it, Cleveland Fox. You hit it. Number one, gears. I can't tell you enough how much more fun a Foxbody is with gears. Most of them came 273s or 308s. And they actually came out with 327s. They splurged a little bit in like 91, 92 in automatic cars only. Because automatic car rear axle 8.8 gears were different than the 5-speed ones. Usually the old 87 and 91, 90 was like a 273 and a 5-speed. They actually bumped the 5-speed up to a 308 in like 91, 92. And they actually bumped the automatic up to 327 from the factory, so it was pretty cool. What would you recommend C-clip eliminators? Mosier, Strange, they're all good. Subframes, exhaust. I would probably say now I'm telling you, this situation. You brought the coupe home, factory, 5-speed AOD, whatever. What's the first things you want to do outside of the obvious, boring stuff? I say number two, and somebody just mentioned it here, exhaust. Now, as far as gears are concerned, let's go back to the gears. Let's go back to the gears, and we'll talk about that. 373 is always a good gear overall for a naturally aspirated car. 355 is a gear that I like the most because you can build a boosted car into that. Whereas like a 373 should be more of an NA, 410 gear would be like an AOD. So those are kind of your choices. You can see how much of a difference it would make in the seat of the pants if you're driving it down the street. You know, like the seat of the pants dyno that we did on that one video. Gears make a considerable difference in the way the car feels and accelerates. So it's going to make it, it's going to be different. Exhaust, obviously. Exhaust, it is what it is. You know, long tubes, short tubes, H-pipe, Flowmasters, ain't nothing. I'm telling you, man. The sound of a Foxbody with a good, you know, Lopi cam and an exhaust, it's hard to not pay attention to. Just to clarify, would you order 308 gears on a brand new? No. 100% would not. If you were to order gears for a brand new Fox, now what do you mean, Rob? You mean you just brought a Foxbody home and you're trying to figure out what gears you got? Like I just said, if you want to put gears in a specific car, like an AOD style car, consider going with at least the 373. 410's more, you know, definitely will accelerate a lot quicker. But 373s, if you ever consider going to stick with that car, then that's really a good gear as well. Like Dad's car is 373s. It's not 410s. And it's, even though it was an automatic first, then it was a stick. See what I mean? I chose that gear because it was the best gear in both scenarios. Upgrade the clutch and pray the trans hold. So number three, I would go with, I would go ahead and say a camshaft. Here's the problem with picking a camshaft first, is the fact that There's other things that need to go with the camshaft to make it really sound awesome, like heads and an intake. Intake puts more air in the motor, heads flow more air out of the motor, camshaft makes the lift change the motor, and it just sounds better. But if you wanted to go with the cam in its stock motor, let's just say you just brought the car home, definitely a B cam. B cam has a lot of duration for as small as it is. It's probably got one of the better sounds. Plus, it's a pedestal mount. You can cheat with the Cobra rockers. The Cobra rockers are a 172. So, when I say I made so much power and went so fast with a stock bottom end motor, it's because I had these rockers in it, which I think you guys can see it, right? They're made by Crane. See the part number? These are actually factory Cobra ones, F3ZE6528AB. These are 172s. Crane actually made these for the 93, 94, 95 Cobras, and I think the Lightnings. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you could put these on you could even put these on stock motor and get a little bit of lift out of it. But I'd say camshaft. I'm regretting my 373s with my Navi 3000. That's why when we talk about boosting, when you start, getting into boosted cars, I really like the 355. It's really my gear of choice. Now, we're probably going to run a 410 polished gear in the coupe. Now, consider the fact it's got a T56 in it. It won't matter. There's 6 gears anyways, and we're going to race it a lot. Along with the little bit of car show stuff, we're going to take it to the events. I'm going to have no problem with any of my cars, my white or my black turbo car. We take it to Walmart. We could take it. I mean, you've seen me this past year drive the white Mustang in 100-degree weather, and it didn't overheat. I mean, it's just, was it miserable? Not really. Not really for what it was. You know what I mean? Sorry, I ordered my GT back in '87 with 308. If you had the opportunity to factory order like I did, I ordered a 308 with a 5-speed. That was a pretty common gear for that. Neo, have you heard anything about the letter cam Summit cells? I've heard and read they are similar to Ford. Yeah. Sort of. I mean, the last time I looked at the B cam, it was like 400 or 540 lift or something, wasn't it? And then I just kind of stopped looking. I put the performance automatic hold valve body in my AOD. Works pretty good. Cool. On 3 turbo. So when you're making power, and we talk about this often on the channel. Now, it could be a supercharger kit or a turbo kit, but boost is definitely a good possibility on making some horsepower. Now, you don't have to have the baddest heads. You don't have to have the baddest cam. You can make good horsepower on stock parts. You just consider running some of the better parts to reinforce it. Like you could put a camshaft in it, run the rocker on stock heads, and get away with a little bit of boost. You probably could get away with what we have in the past. So we have an old A trim, like some of these old entry-level superchargers. They're definitely worth their weight in gold for what they are. I actually don't know if I can pull it out. I got a supercharger here sitting on the stand that used to be in Dad's car, if you guys remember. But we have since went to a turbo that we custom built, with some Amazon piping. So boost is definitely, and you don't even need a cam to do it. Boost is definitely something that you can just slap on a stock motor, make about 7 pounds before you really need to start considering changing the head gasket and the head bolts, head studs. First mod, subframe connector, torque box kit, second gears, improved quadrant clutch, Explorer heads, nice. Only similarities with the Summit cams are the name. They're all bigger cams. That's what I thought. Like they call their B cam. It's like a lot more duration and lift. Ford lost the patent on the letter cams. Summit now remakes the letter cams with B3. So they call them a plus version. Dan Robinson here on the channel is a Summit tech. So he knows what he's talking about with this stuff. I'm sure he's been very familiar with it. Drive shaft recommendations for my budget NA306. I really don't recommend anything. You could do an aluminum drive shaft. It does help. It is stronger. One of the things that you need to start doing as well, I'm glad you brought it up. We start talking about an 8.8 right here, 8.8 axle, okay? You want to start talking about a bigger flange. You guys probably don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Let me tell you. Bigger flange for a better U-joint. And this is where Stifler's comes in. Grabbing one of their drive shaft loops, which I've been too knuckleheaded not to put on in the last few years, but bigger flange. And basically, can't even see that. What happens is, this is probably would be a good video for me to bring out to you guys. Bigger flange is very important because you can put a bigger 1350 joint. And that's what I'm talking about. 1330 versus 1350. Which I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm terrible. So you guys are probably, some of you guys might be, might not know what we're talking about, but I'm about to tell you. Technical difficulties here. You see that now? Yes. Okay. Let me pull one out. Flange wise. I think I got one here just sitting in the box, but I don't think I have the bigger one. I think I just got, yeah. So this flange right here, and I think one of our buddies here that runs a Coyote Supercharged had to deal with this. But this is your flange on your 8.8 axle, right? You got back side of this. You got the gears and the pinion and whatever. I'm not teaching you how to try to rebuild an 8.8, but this flange is a 1330. Now the U joint and the flange, or the the bracket that goes on here, or the whatever pinion, the yokes and stuff, they're all 1330s. That U joint isn't very strong. Whereas you got the larger, stronger U joints. When you start making 500 plus, you should start considering switching over to the larger U joints. Now here on this is my other T56. T56 aluminum drive shaft here. I don't want to hit my board and have it fall down. This is what my aluminum drive shaft from my other T56. You start making 500 or 600 horsepower, you got to consider legitimately upgrading this piece right here. Like, he just talked about upgrading his drive shaft. This is actually a 1350 with a forged yoke. See that? I have probably bent the splines in about 10 of these things. Got them all lined on the wall right there. Like 5, whatever. Point of the matter is this thing's about $100 or so, but a forged unit can handle probably 1,000 plus or more. But these U joints are just like splines on an axle. You see what I mean? If you can't make so much horsepower before they start to twist. And what will happen is this drive shaft, when you take the drive shaft out and you try to, put it back in the transmission, it'll only go up so far because all the splines inside are all bent. Like I said, if I could really show you the video camera, you could see some of them that are bent. But this flange and that U joint, big upgrade. Start making 500 plus, you should start considering, this is one of the things that you should start considering on your axle or your drive shaft, is to upgrade to a 1350 joint. Super, super important. And that's on all the Cobras, like all the Terminators, I'm pretty sure have the big flange in the back. But you got to change this too at your axle, because you're going to want to change the joint, and then you're going to probably have to change your drive shaft. So it's kind of one of those mods that you can do early, and it doesn't really matter, because the flange and the drive shaft flange and the yokes and everything bolt up the same way. But if you're going to order a drive shaft, you might as well just go ahead and get a 1351 anyways if you're planning on making some good power. It is what it is. So definitely a good one. I'm glad I remembered that one. Good point. 13. I've actually, let me tell you what happens. You ignore the 1330 joint and it breaks, it could catapult your car. Probably one of the biggest safety issues in a Foxbody Mustang to date. I don't know if you've ever watched a drive shaft come out of a car before, but a car will literally come up and it'll just catapult. And it's a very, very, very big, safety issue. So do yourself a favor, it's really cool to put gears and exhaust and camshafts in and everything like that. Putting boost in it, putting some power in it or whatever, building your car. But I know that some of this stuff is boring, but some of this stuff will pay dividends in the end when you start adding the other stuff. See what I mean? It's kind of like when you start getting into the rabbit hole, there's so many things to consider, if that makes any sense. So, yeah. Ken, I appreciate the $5 super sticker, man. Thank you so much for donating to the channel tonight. Super appreciate everybody who does the super chats and the super stickers here while we're live. The Sunix flange is a pretty piece, and Strange will make you a custom dome chromoly length. Yeah, so all my drive shafts are inland. I get them from Hanlon. That's who they're not contractor, but that's who they usually go through. Inland's really good customer service. I mean, outstanding customer service. Another big thing about cams is what degree center line do you run? That's right. Sunix makes a 1350 flange, just like $100. Yeah. So when you're building an axle, you're reinforcing an axle, you're bracing an axle, changing the gears or whatever, consider going ahead and just, if you got to order a drive shaft anyways, or you're going to get an aluminum drive shaft anyways, think about it. Like, okay, well, I got to weld my tubes on my axle and I'm going to brace it and put some gears in it. Really cool idea. If you're going to put some gears in it, why don't you go ahead and just switch to a 1350 joint now? You see what I mean? Because, I mean, the flange is a little more money and you'll save yourself a bunch of headache later. Here's the real killer part. If you don't, now listen to me. If you don't have the money to change the drive shaft yet, you could buy the 1350 joint. Excuse me. You can buy the 1350 flange that you put in with your new gears. Okay, the larger one that's stronger and better, right? And you can still use your stock and or still use your drive shaft that you have, because they actually make a offset U-joint. Now, I don't recommend using it, but I've used it, put some good power to it, and I never broke one. But they actually have one that'll go from a 1330 to a 1350. So it'll kind of buy you some time if you're not ready to order the new drive shaft yet, because I know they're like $700 if you get the inland ones. You see what I'm saying? So they actually make one that's multi-sized that you could use. And the nice thing is you don't have to go back and change the flange when power starts being an issue. See what I mean? The 1350 joints without the grease fitting is attached stronger also. That's right. Neil, if you had vibration in your shifter, what would you check first? Vibration in the shifter. Okay. Vibration in the transmission alone really kind of hinders on a couple things. You got to, I would check to see if your cross members junk. I would check to make sure that you got to remember, keep it simple, stupid first. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Could be something as small as, your drive shaft's loose. You know, your drive shaft in the back of the flange is loose. See that? Which usually has some sort of rattling involved. When you start hearing some rattling, you should probably check this first. It's either the U-joint or your drive shaft's loose. This is not uncommon. Your trans mount would give you a little vibration if it's tore up. That's not uncommon to see those things. I actually got a couple I could show you, but they're just tore up. You wouldn't even be able to see them. I would check those two first. It's going to be kind of uncommon that your drive shaft's got a dent in it, but a third thing from vibration from like literally driving the car would be a bent drive shaft. It would definitely cause a little vibration in it. So there's little weights on that thing that's like welded to it, and it's not uncommon for those things to fly off. But try to scroll back and see what that said. Give me a second here. Okay. Treetop Tom, I put Coney orange shocks and strut Steeda blue, lowering springs, flip the quads, 10-inch wide. Hell yeah. Carbon fiber drive shaft. Nice. Woo. That's good stuff right there. Strange makes a lot of nice 8.8 upgrades. That's correct. Billet rear pinion, 1350 joints is around 150. Very big, very good idea. And that's almost a safety thing. Again, you start getting into bracing. One thing I didn't put on this list here, number 6 would be bracing the axle. We could talk about that real quick if you want. Bracing the axle is super important for cars that are starting to make, let's just call it over 500 horsepower. Because right around about 500 horsepower is about where you're going to want to start paying attention to your axle. I mean, I got away with stock axle with some gears till about 475, 500. Never broke them, but I knew that if I didn't, it was definitely a hazard. So bracing axle is very important. And that goes hand in foot with what I just said here about the 1350 joints. Bracing your axle. And this is legitimately welding the tubes on it. Okay. When I say welding the tubes, I don't have an axle here that's cut up that I could show you. Your axle has the tube and it has the center section. And then the tube goes into the center section. It's pressed with 2 pins. That's all that's there. When you brace your axle or reinforce your axle, you want to clean that area off and have somebody TIG weld around those tubes, so those tubes they'll legitimately twist inside of that center section differential area. Also, Team Z, I made my own braces, but Team Z makes a full brace kit that has the big bar that goes all the way at the bottom of it. And there's all kind of bracing that happens to the axle. It's a very, very good idea. And this is, like I said, this is some of the stuff that you're happy with boost and you're happy with the power you're making, and you want to reinforce some stuff in the back. This is definitely stuff that often gets overlooked. So, yeah, that's a good one too. Bearing retainer, pilot bearing. So if it's not one of those two things with your vibration in your car, consider looking at those two things. So 9-inch ends is definitely what we do. We have 9-inch ends on my white car. Now, a lot of you folks will say, well, why don't you just go with a 9-inch rear end? There's nothing wrong with that. But you could make an 8.8 as strong or, competitive with a 9-inch complete axle and just stay with the 8.8. But basically 9-inch ends are just better ends for the axle after you brace it. I believe it mainly in 5th gear. I got a new in-box Dynotech 1350 drive shaft off eBay, NASCAR shop for $225 ship. That's been in my car for like 5 years. Yes. So let's talk. We'll continue talking about this stuff. Only got a couple more minutes here. I'm gonna house some questions. Summit sells a brace as well. I believe that through A-Tech. Is it R-Tech for Jeeps? But it's the same concept as braced axle. Okay. Do you have a video with list 4 auto to 5-speed swap parts? Yes, I do. I actually do. We have a video of the complete list of swapping it over. All right, Pimp, have a good week, man. All right, so last week we had Fox Days of Christmas. We're going to continue shipping some boxes out. We're not done yet. So you haven't got, if some to the winners who are maybe here in the channel, some of you guys got your stuff that won. I think Jimmer got his stuff. I don't know who else in here who's in the chat that actually won, but big shout again to, and I'm not going to miss some of them, but Trick Flow, Handler Motorsports for helping me, Malwood, Stiflers, Ram, just to name a few, MAF Racing. Big shout out to you guys. Anyways, I don't know if you guys follow me on Facebook, but you probably should. We are actually hosting a stick shift event, not hosting a stick shift event. I am going to coordinate a stick shift event at Ford Takeover this year. And it's already, the things are already in the works. We've actually have talked to a sponsor. Very big news coming up probably this week from a couple sponsors for that event and for the event in total with, Foxcast Media. I'll let him talk more about it himself, but we've done a lot of legwork last week to do a stick shift event for Ford Takeover during the Saturday's event at the drag strip. So really looking forward to that. We've already got, I think we got a full field of 16 cars already, but I haven't looked back in some of my messages. So I know we got 14 and most of them are locked in anyways. I just haven't made the picture yet. But that's something that if you guys get a chance, Ford Takeover is going to be, above and beyond this year. And I'm going to be there with Handling Motorsports as well. And with a couple sponsors that you guys are going to be very happy with. So hell yeah, it's going to be epic. So yeah, Paulus GT40 tubular intake. That's my kickstand, bro. You gotta have garage stuff. Like I want to thank Handling for the Cobra upper. I had a Cobra lower. I think it used to be the A50 one. No, that's the other one. Anyway, I had a Cobra lower that came with an upper that was a 93 one, and it was like, and Handling had the actual factory upper, so we kind of like mated the two together and actually have a Cobra intake sitting over here. So it's like my wall ornaments, like not for use, not for sale, retired, just hanging around the shop. I refuse to join Facebook, but it looks like I'm going to have to with all the websites. So basically what I did is I coordinated the stick shift event. So we haven't made a name for it yet. We haven't even really, set an event name for it. It's going to be like 3-pedal madness, man pedal madness, for manual. It's going to be something really cool, but the way it's looking at right now, we got 2 sponsors that are going to sponsor that event and Ford Takeover too, I think. Again, that's Foxcast Media's event, June 23rd, 24th. So if you get a chance to maybe schedule something out that you want to go to this year as far as Foxbody is concerned, or just Ford in general, definitely want to consider that, because there's going to be some epic shit going on at that event. I know it's not a question, but hopefully you were able to get into the blue one. It looks great, Dad's ride. Gonna head out and grab. I'm in. See you soon, John. Nice seeing you, man. Carlos, I got a speed density VM1 ECU that came with my 86, but the car was MAF converted. Price of A9Ls are ridiculous. Is tights. What's my best option? To bite the bullet and get an A9L? For sure. Do you run long tubes on GT40P? Yeah, you can if you change the boots on the spark plugs to be like 90 degree. $3,000 351 build. What parts are you choosing? Production block, Forged bottom end from either Scat or Eagle. It's got to be zero balanced. I would spend the rest on machine work because it's going to cost you money to get it bored. It's going to cost you money to get it decked. Make sure you deck the block. Make sure they clean the block. You know, make sure you do. What was that? Make sure you, you do all the proper procedures. You know what I mean? You can use a production block. You can still build a badass little 351 with a forged bottom end. You don't need a girdle. I mean, 351 is plenty strong enough at the bottom. So, what's up, JPL? It's good to see you, my man. What did he say? What tracks or tracks? What do you mean? The stick shift event that I'm doing? The stick shift event I'm doing is at Ford Takeover. It's just an extra event that we decided. I had an idea. I asked Caleb at Foxcast Media. I said, would you consider letting me or us, do a small shootout at the Ford Takeover? And he was good with it. So, I kind of took the bull by the horns and started running with it. And we made a Facebook post about it on Neo Mustangs. And, we kind of already got it all set up. I already got 14 of the 16 cars. I know there's a full field there. I just have to look through some of my messages. Me and Andrew Hanlon filled that up pretty good. So big shout to Hanlon, man. Guys, if you're not wanting to miss the event, you can help it. There's going to be 16 of some of the baddest stick shift. That's right. No, we got you covered. We got you covered, JPL. There was only 2 items that were not claimed from the Fox Days of Christmas. One of them was the hood seal for the hood, and the other one was I had to check my notes. They were pretty inconsiderable. So, when I say inconsiderable, I mean they were just like kind of restoration, like small thing. I think one of them was the weather stripping. I take that back. So, where is the Ford Takeover event? It is all over Facebook. I think he's got a website. You can go to FordTakeover.com. Is that right? I'm going to go ahead and just putting Ford Takeover. Yeah. Ford Takeover right in Google will take you right to it. What heads would you choose for the 351? It would definitely be something that I could grow into. AFR 72cc head or anything that's 70cc. I think there's another one that's 70 plus. Make sure you listen, bring the compression down on the 357 because that's what it's going to be. If you're going to build, if you got 3K, I would definitely consider stroking the block because even though you got 3,000, you can build a 351 or 357, or you can just go ahead and go right into a stroker. Yeah, that sounds cool, Jimmer. I think I follow something on Facebook that's, I think, at an airstrip. There he is. It's always funny to see who's sitting in chat. What's up, David Willis? The little silver coupe he's got in his little, what's that picture at? Right there. Is up on our Facebook right now. He's locked in with his buddy. I got half the field locked in, but I'm not going to tell you guys who the sponsor is just yet and the prizes. But it's going to be definitely off the hook. You're going to see some really cool driving. And the best part is it's going to be in the middle of Tennessee, in the middle of the summer. It's going to be hot as shit, and that track is not going to be very good. Why the big chambers? Well, because consider the fact that I was a 357 before. And when I put 72cc, when I put 58 chamber heads on a 357, my compression was a little high. So when I decided that I wanted to go into a 387 or a 393 or a 408 stroker, there was no way I was putting 58 chamber CC heads on that. Even with E85, I would have been 12-1 plus. So I always tell people when they start getting into a 9.5 deck motor or an older 9.4 deck motor that, consider if you got a choice at an aluminum head right now, I definitely would stick with something a little bit bigger in chamber size so you don't have to worry so much about compression. So excited to see the blue car build. Man, I appreciate that. We're going to be we got a goal. We got a goal. I mean, we went 580 at 155 in the white hatch, which is pretty much 30-50 without me in it. So it's 3250 me racing. The goal with the coupe back here is going to be 2700, 2600, 2700, and it's not going to be gutted. It's going to be light, but it's not. I'm going to have a dash in it. I'm going to have both front seats. We're going to have door panels. We're going to have a console, maybe even a radio because it doesn't weigh but a couple pounds. We're going to do a rear seat delete because the 10-point cage I'm not going to worry about that. We're just going to get rid of the stuff that we're not going to use, like the heater boxes and the AC box. I live in Ohio. I know. I get it. What doesn't have AC? I don't really care. We're just going to lighten it up. And, I'm pretty sure that if I would have been 2,900 pounds racing that last year versus 3,300 pounds, we'd have been doing a little bit better. What's the 380? What's the 387 stroker going in? You guys haven't seen that yet. It's not my car, but we are going to. Well, I just have to explain it to you later. But the only thing the 387 stroker is waiting on, we just got today. Well, Friday. I just took a valve springs over to Dave to do the heads that we're about to put on the motor. So we're going to be. We also had to modify the oil pan because of the clutch cable. I'll explain that as well. But anyways, yeah, that's the news. This week we got a couple just random videos coming up. Obviously I'll shoot it like the 387. If he gets done with them, or I think we're going to be doing an update on the 387 this week. We got a new possible sponsor to the channel. I did want to mention this now because, I think it's important. So, one of the biggest issues we had on the white car and the black car all these years was back pressure. So, somebody on Facebook was selling a Precision 7675 turbo, which you guys know I run the Gen 1 CEA 7675 Precision turbos. They have the 0.96 the exhaust housing, which is kind of small from the 363 and the 408 that I run, but I make use of it, right? Problem is, you start making some steam in those motors, they start getting back pressure, and you get a lot of poundage of back pressure. It puts a whooping on your heads and your valve train, and it just it's kind of like trying to make 1,000 horsepower or 800 or 900 horsepower, and the exhaust just can't exit fast enough. You see what I mean? So it starts to back up into your turbo system. So little did I know that there was a company, because we did it budget, Michael. There was actually a company called AGP. Okay, and there's the tag. You see it? So AGP here in America, I mean, it's made in America, made in USA, makes housings for all the popular turbos. And they run about $300. They're not cheap. They're very well made. They actually sell you the flange with it too. So, anyways, they sent me, this is a 127 housing. So a 0.96 was the biggest that Precision made for the 7675, which is one of their popular, Gen 1, Gen 2 turbos that they still sell to date. But one of the biggest issues is the housings were always too small. So this is a 127, 1.27 AR, and it'll bolt right up to my Precision turbo. So this is an option for people who run that turbo. They also make them for Borg, and they also make them from Garrett and several of the other really famous like S480s and stuff like that. So definitely going to make a difference as far as power is concerned, because I'll be able to bring power in later and change my tune up a little bit. You see what I mean? So once you start backing too much exhaust pressure up in your turbo housing and in your turbo system, it just can't make any more power because it can't get the exhaust out. You see what I mean? Even with a big wastegate. But regardless, AGP sent me 2 of these. I bought one. They sent me a second one because I run the same turbo on both cars. So this is something that we're going to talk about this week. and we're going to actually install it on the black car and probably go back to the dyno. Have a little bit of fun. We ain't been to dyno forever. Treetop Tom, thanks for having us, Dan. Entertaining and curiosity. Thank you for the community and Foxbody a lot. Man, I appreciate you coming in here, Treetop Tom. Thank you so much. Good night, Roberto. Good to see you. Question, you have GT40 heads for sale. I got some coming. I bought a whole truckload of GT40 intakes, but I haven't finalized the deal yet. But I got a couple other sets that we haven't put up yet. What are your thoughts on Lunati? I know nothing about Lunati stuff. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Okay. All right, Jimmer. I appreciate you, man. We'll see you soon. Anyways, and I'll give it a couple more minutes. Another 2 minutes to answer some questions. Guys, I do these live streams. We spend a couple hours hanging out with y'all. I do appreciate everybody who is part of the live stream. I bring this information. You know, what I say on my live stream isn't always what's right or what's wrong or indifferent. This is a good plan, though. This is a good map. Everybody has different ideas on how they want to build their car. But the main thing is getting your car off the jack stand. One of the biggest problems we have, and the biggest problems we have with our Foxbody builds, especially in our community, is the fact that we take so long to build our cars. Well, we're always looking for what's next. It wasn't too long ago that 500 horsepower was king. And then it's 600 horsepower. And then it's 1,000 horsepower. And then it's 1,500 horsepower. Your car changes a lot between 300 horsepower or 225 horsepower, which isn't very dangerous. When you start making some GT40 part changes and some stock bottom end changes, it makes 300. Then you start adding a little bit of boost to it, might make 400, 425. But the point of the matter is, along this journey of the reason why I bring live streams like this, along this journey, these things are going to change. And if you don't address them, they'll not only be a hazard and a safety issue, but it'll rob performance on your car. Specifically, when you're racing for like a specific time, index, at the track, on a draggy, whatever. So that could be possibly an issue with your car. But we get caught up in the rabbit hole of trying to make so much power to catch up with everybody else that we literally don't sit down, make a good plan, and just enjoy your car. Don't always go for what's best or what's the next best thing. Just enjoy your car, build your car, even if you got to put some of the stock parts back on with the aftermarket stuff that you could afford at the time, and just get it done. Like I'm always pushing, make a plan. It ain't got to be the best plan, but it's got to be a plan that works for you. Because at some point, you may end up losing interest in that car if you're so far into the rabbit hole that you can't even see light anymore. And it happens to all of us. The key to beating the rabbit hole is not jumping in too deep, kind of like what I just did here. But that's why I say it's an accelerated build plan for the Scoop, because if I stare at it too long, I might get into another project with, you know, switching my dad's motor like we talked about, or having to fix the black car or the white car. It is what it is. So do yourself a favor, stay motivated, make a plan, get your car off the jack stands. It's January. Some places it's still warm, but here in the next few months, everything's going to start warming up again. Don't waste any time. I just want to say a big shout out to Kent for the super sticker. Thank you so much. Carlos, I appreciate the $5. Thanks for another killer live stream, dude. I appreciate you guys supporting the channel here. Main thing is, I really appreciate the support I'm getting from my club members. So big shout out to you guys in green here in chat. If you're curious about what that is, it's the join button below on all my videos. But outside that, guys, I'll bring you this sort of content to help you. If you got any questions, once again, hit me up in the comments. I always answer questions even when the live streams are finished. But stay motivated, stay on track, make a plan. I will see you guys this week in the next videos. Thank you so much for watching tonight. Look forward to next week. Have a good night.